Trump has left the building.
We can now project the winner of the presidential race. Donald Trump wins the presidency. What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
We have a president who actually fulfilled the promises he made during the campaign, securing the border to foreign policy.
He now has a record as president that's pretty damn impressive.
Breaking news out of Palm Beach,
The FBI
Florida.
has executed an unprecedented search warrant at President Donald Trump's
against the
Mar-a-Lago
former
estate.
president has both sides of the political aisle up
Is
in
a
arms.
dangerous and unstable moment in American history.
The Justice Department has just indicted former President Donald Trump.
For 7 years, they hated him, they targeted him, they hunted him.
This is the epitome of the abuse of the prosecutorial power to preempt political decisions.
I never thought anything like this could happen in America. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving. On November 5th, 2024, justice will be done. We will take back our country, and we will make America great again. America will always rise to every challenge and overcome every danger.
Donald Trump seems to always get stronger when challenged. These types of things, I think, give him strength.
When I'm reelected, I will totally obliterate the deep state.
As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail.
Nothing worth doing is ever easy. You'll have bad moments. You gotta love what you're doing. And if you don't, just do something else. Keep standing up always for your values. Keep loving your country. And one of the most important things, never, ever quit. Never quit. Then ask yourself, what imprint will you leave in the sands of history? What will future Americans say we did in our brief time right here on Earth? Did we take risks? Did we dare to defy expectations? Did we challenge accepted wisdom and take on established systems? In my short time in Washington, I've seen firsthand how the system is broken. A small group of failed voices who think they know everything and understand everyone want to tell everybody else how to live and what to do and how to think. But you aren't going to let other people tell you what you believe, especially when you know that you're right. I know that each of you will be a warrior for the truth. Will be a warrior for our country and for your family. I know that each of you will do what is right, not what is the easy way. And that you will be true to yourself and your country and your beliefs. Remember this, nothing worth doing ever came easy. Following your convictions means you must be willing to face criticism from those who lack courage or the guts or the stamina to take it and to do it. It's called the road less traveled.
and soon to be 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
November 5th is going to be the most important day in the history of our country. And we will bring our country back together, bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before. And together we will win, win, win.
I have never, ever been prouder of President Trump, of my president, than when he stood up with blood all over his face and he raised his fist in defiance and he shook his fist.
They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving.
He's not meant to be stopped. He's meant to help fix this country.
On November 5th, 2024, we will take back our country and we will make America great again.
The test of a man is how much he will bear for a cause which he knows to be right. How long will he stand in the depths of despair? How much will he suffer and fight? There are many to serve when the victory is near, and few are the hurts to be borne. But it calls for a leader of courage to cheer the men in a battle forlorn. It is the way you hold out against odds that are great that proves what your courage is worth. It is the way that you stand to the bruises of fate that shows up your stature and girth. And victory is nothing but proof of your skill, veneered with a glory that's thin. Unless it is a proof of unfaltering will, and unless you have suffered to win.
Is New York's Donald Trump running for president? He bought full-page ads in 3 East Coast newspapers today stating his views on foreign policy, and these ads will win him a following. In the ads he says, there's nothing wrong with American foreign policy that little backbone won't cure. And he says, we have no business spending ourselves broke in the Middle East, protecting ships that are not ours, and oil that we don't need.
Rumblings in the Trump camp point as far as the presidency.
Somebody has to help this country, and if they don't, the country and the world are in big trouble. Because within a short period of time, as sure as we're sitting here, there's not going to be a country and there's not going to be a world. I have no intention of running for president, and if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally.
Together we will determine the course of America and the world for many, many years to come. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. That all changes, starting right here and right now, because this moment is your moment. It belongs to you. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer.
Trump leading in 5 of the 6 most important battleground states.
Biden continues to trail Donald Trump. Our latest polling out of Iowa also shows former President Trump with a 30-point lead over his nearest rival.
The Republican primary is over.
Donald Trump basically has this nomination locked up.
Everyone is listening to you now. I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down. My fellow Americans, our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun.
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her.
You're considered the most liberal United States senator. Well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
We are going to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented cross borders criminals. That's correct. That is correct.
A lot of the signs at the rally you just held were people standing there saying, abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position that you agree with?
We need to probably think about starting from scratch.
So you support giving
universal health care, Medicare for all to people who are in this country illegally?
I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being public health, period.
Are you for defunding the police?
How are you defining defund the police? It's actually wrong and backward to think that more police officers will create more safety. We need to get rid of money bail.
Convicted, in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation. I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. I have always supported Medicare for all. I was very happy to sign on to Bernie's bill, and I give Bernie, frankly, a lot of credit. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should.
Final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
Left the building.
We can now project the winner of the presidential race. Donald Trump wins the presidency. What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
We have a president who actually fulfilled the promises he made during the campaign, securing the border to foreign policy.
He now has a record as president that's pretty damn impressive.
Breaking news out of Palm Beach,
The FBI
Florida.
has executed an unprecedented search warrant at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The former president has both sides of the political aisle up
Is
in
a
arms.
dangerous and unstable moment in American history.
The Justice Department has just indicted former President Donald Trump.
For 7 years, they hated him, they targeted him, they hunted him.
This is the epitome of the abuse of the prosecutorial power to preempt political decisions.
I never thought anything like this could happen in America. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving. On November 5th, 2024, justice will be done. We will take back our country, and we will make America great again. America will always rise to every challenge and overcome every danger.
Donald Trump seems to always get stronger when challenged. These types of things, I think, give him strength.
When I'm reelected, I will totally obliterate the deep state.
As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail.
Nothing worth doing is ever easy. You'll have bad moments. You gotta love what you're doing. And if you don't, just do something else. Keep standing up always for your values. Keep loving your country. And one of the most important things, never, ever quit. Never quit. Then ask yourself, what imprint will you leave in the sands of history? What will future Americans say we did in our brief time right here on Earth? Did we take risks? Did we dare to defy expectations? Did we challenge accepted wisdom and take on established systems? In my short time in Washington, I've seen firsthand how the system is broken. A small group of failed voices who think they know everything and understand everyone, want to tell everybody else how to live and what to do and how to think. But you aren't going to let other people tell you what you believe, especially when you know that you're right. I know that each of you will be a warrior for the truth, will be a warrior for our country and for your family. I know that each of you will do what is right, not what is the easy way, and that you will be true to yourself and your country and your beliefs. Remember this, nothing worth doing ever came easy. Following your convictions means you must be willing to face criticism from those who lack courage or the guts or the stamina to take it and to do it. It's called the road less traveled.
To introduce the 45th and soon to be 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
November 5th is going to be the most important day in the history of our country. And we will bring our country back together, bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before. And together we will win, win, win.
I have never, ever been prouder of President Trump, of my president, than when he stood up with blood all over his face and he raised his fist in defiance and he shook his fist.
They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving.
He's not meant to be stopped. He's meant to help fix this country.
On November 5th, 2024, we will take back our country and we will make America great again.
The test of a man is how much he will bear for a cause which he knows to be right. How long will he stand in the depths of despair? How much will he suffer and fight? There are many to serve when the victory is near, and few are the hurts to be borne. But it calls for a leader of courage to cheer the men in a battle forlorn. It is the way you hold out against odds that are great that proves what your courage is worth. It is the way that you stand to the bruises of fate that shows up your stature and girth. And victory is nothing but proof of your skill, veneered with a glory that's thin. Unless it is a proof of unfaltering will, and unless you have suffered to win.
Is New York's Donald Trump running for president? He bought full-page ads in 3 East Coast newspapers today stating his views on foreign policy, and these ads will win him a following. In the ads, he says, there's nothing wrong with American foreign policy that little backbone won't cure. And he says, we have no business spending ourselves broke in the Middle East, protecting ships that are not ours, and oil that we don't need.
Rumblings in the Trump camp point as far as the presidency.
Somebody has to help this country, and if they don't, the country and the world are in big trouble. Because within a short period of time, as sure as we're sitting here, there's not going to be a country and there's not going to be a world.
I have no intention of running for president. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally.
Together we will determine the course of America and the world for many, many years to come. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. That all changes, starting right here and right now, because this moment is your moment. It belongs to you.
The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer.
Trump leading in 5 of the 6 most important battleground states.
Biden continues to trail Donald Trump. Our latest polling out of Iowa also shows former President Trump with a 30-point lead over his nearest rival.
The Republican primary is over.
Donald Trump basically has this nomination locked up.
Everyone is listening to you now. I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down. My fellow Americans, our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun.
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her.
You're considered the most liberal United States senator. Well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
We are going to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross borders criminals. That's correct. That is correct.
A lot of the signs at the rally you just held were people standing there saying, abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position that you agree with?
We need to probably think about starting from scratch.
So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all to people who are in this country illegally?
I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being public health, period.
Are you for defunding the police?
How are you defining defund the police? It's actually wrong and backward to think that more police officers will create more safety. We need to get rid of money bail.
Convicted, in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation. I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. I have always supported Medicare for all. I was very happy to sign on to Bernie's bill, and I give Bernie, frankly, a lot of credit. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should.
Final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
What's up, fam? You know what today is? Today is that coveted day. Today is August
The 12th.
It's August 12th, and August 12th, for those around here knows, it's Santa's birthday. And on August 12th, today, I will have turned 48 years of age, and it's been a great 48 years, especially the years since I've met this beautiful woman right here. Yeah. So anyway, birthday is today, and tomorrow we break ground for our dream that's becoming fulfilled. It is definitely, we're building a retail location, not the one that we have. We're building a nice little warehouse and stuff for Christmas light distribution. You can go to christmascontractor.com. You can see that, be a part of that. But we break ground on that tomorrow. And Saturday, Sabado, if you speak Spanish, Saturday, we are pouring the concrete. So we will have a concrete ceremony where we are going to be placing a religious artifact in the foundation, but be live for that. Also, Saturdays is Power Couples Weekend. Yes. And Joseph Murphy, Chelsea Murphy, me and Laura, we are going to be on a podcast. It's going to be invitation only. It's going to be private recording, which we'll cut up later. You'll be able to see some of it. But we are going to be on this recording on this weekend, Saturday at 2 o'clock. So if you want to be a part of that, let us know. But one of the most important things that's happening this weekend is it's Laura and I's anniversary. And this is going to be on Thursday, the 15th, which is the end of the celebrations for birthdays and anniversary and all. It's all, you know, climaxing to the anniversary, the most important part of the whole entire week. Today we'll celebrate my birthday, but we're going to continue on. Anniversary is going to be Thursday, August 15th, so we'll probably be in Margaritaville, hanging out with Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville, you know, God rest his soul. But we'll be there. But speaking of be there, if you're going to be in the Christmas light installation business, or you want any kind of festive lights, holiday lights, Christmas lights, any kind of thing like that, please go online to christmascontractor.com. Support us. If you want your lights installed, you're in the local Houston, Texas area, Kingdom Christmas Lights, you already know what it is if you live around here. But for those of you who are looking for Christmas lights, holla at your boy, Santa himself. It's my birthday. Buy your Christmas lights at christmascontractor.com.
Trump has left the building. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. Donald Trump wins the presidency. What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
We have a president who actually fulfilled the promises he made during the campaign. Securing the border to foreign policy.
He now has a record as president that's pretty damn impressive. Breaking news out of Palm Beach,
The FBI has executed an unprecedented search warrant at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The former president has both sides of the political aisle up in arms.
It is a dangerous and unstable moment in American history.
The Justice Department has just indicted former President Donald Trump.
For 7 years, they hated him, they targeted him, they hunted him.
This is the epitome of the abuse of the prosecutorial power to preempt political decisions.
I never thought anything like this could happen in America. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving. On November 5th, 2024, justice will be done. We will take back our country, and we will make America great again. America will always rise to every challenge and overcome every danger.
Donald Trump seems to always get stronger when challenged. These types of things, I think, give him strength.
When I'm reelected, I will totally obliterate the deep state.
As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail.
I am officially running for President of the United States.
Could he actually win?
No freaking way!
Which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Donald Trump.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump.
Trump will not be president.
Trump will never be elected president of the United States.
You're not going to be president.
A man who will never be president of the United States.
Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
He will never be president.
Donald Trump is not going to become president of the United States.
She's at plus 19. Do you think the tapes made a difference? Of course! They made all the difference!
This race is over.
Hillary Clinton has raised more than double Donald Trump, vastly outspending him.
The presidency at about 89% for Hillary Clinton.
Your analytical model has never been wrong. Now projects Hillary Clinton to win presidential election.
100% chance. You still think she has a 100% chance of winning the election?
I do.
And what would Donald Trump have to do to turn things around?
Prayer and hope for a Festivus miracle.
Coverage of Election Night in America. The fight for the presidency.
Because we don't care. Oh, okay, have Kentucky. Who cares?
Kentucky.
Don't care about Indiana. Don't care.
Indiana with
West Virginia, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, Kansas, Nebraska, and Wyoming with its vote, North Dakota and South Dakota, Texas.
Up and down the middle of the country, all red.
Arkansas, Louisiana, the state of Montana, Missouri.
Yes, it was at 80% an hour ago for Clinton.
What is it now?
68%.
Okay, God damn it, I'm nervous.
Ohio.
Hold. Ohio, gone.
Idaho.
Okay, yeah, I don't see a fucking landslide here. I don't see it at all.
North Carolina.
God damn it, if we need Florida, are you shitting me?
Florida.
It is fucking panic time.
Georgia.
Donald Trump, now the favorite to win the presidency.
Iowa.
New York Times now has it at 95% chance.
Utah.
Can still win, but in order to do so, she has to win Wisconsin. God damn, fuck.
discouraged. Now, there was a lack of coordination. There was, obviously everybody understands that somebody that building should have been covered, and
Yeah. I mean,
that was
I
the
think
big
that
thing.
I mean, looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the #1 spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like if you were to pick like what is the favorite, so if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building. Well, the
You're
roof of
right.
that building would be #1.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better
No,
location. It's like
no,
#1.
that would have been the spot. You know what people think is when the local policeman, who, by the way, he really he did what he was supposed to do. He couldn't hold on any longer. And then when he got his head just peeking above, this guy's standing there with a gun at his head. And when he fell down, again, hurt his ankle very badly, but he was making the calls. But what happened is the firing took place very soon. So what they think is that this guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast. And maybe that's why he sort of missed. I mean,
But
he
as you
got
said,
me,
he
but it
would
could
have hit.
have been a much bigger problem.
But he totally would have hit if he hadn't turned your head. So, like, it was a very near thing.
It was
So,
a miracle. If I hadn't turned my head,
yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah,
I would not be.
you to from another realm, perhaps.
Yeah, that's right. We'd be talking from a different place. But it was, it was very terrible. The Butler Hospital, they did such a great job. The doctors were so good. Everybody was so good. It was a mistake. I wanted to get up and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me and very bravely. But I wanted to get up. I said, I want to get up. And they wanted, they have everything there. They wanted stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else because it was such a lot of blood. And they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were saying, sir, you were hitting more than the ear. I said, nope, I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up. And so I got up and the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so many people and you could see they were confused. They didn't know what to think. And I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them know that. And they went wild. You've seen the after. They didn't go wild when I got up because they didn't know, was I alive? You really couldn't tell. When I stood up before the hand, before the the fist in the air, they didn't know if I was alive. Nobody did. And when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It was a terrible thing, but it was
incredibly moving. Yeah. Well, and I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn that saved your life, really, was the illegal immigration slide. Maybe this, maybe this is worth talking about that.
It was
that slide saved
you're
your
right.
life.
No, the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but it was, and I had to be at that exact angle.
I mean, that's a great one. saved by illegal immigration.
The incredible thing, though, when you talk about the odds, You had to be exactly at that angle. But the incredible thing is that the chart, I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment.
Yeah.
It's always on my left, never my right. And it's always at the end of the speech. So here we have it. It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my ear. So it was amazing. But when you think of the odds of that, and you know that normally you wouldn't use it. Normally I wouldn't have the thing, and then it would have been a very different story. It's very much. I say an act of God. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm honored by it. I'm honored by it.
Well, what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely interrupted?
Well, I was going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler, and we're going to go back in October. We're all set up, and the people are fantastic in Butler. It's a great area. These are incredible people. Like the three that, in the case of Corey, killed, and the other two, the families I got to know them a little bit, and the families are great. But we're going back to Butler, and I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying, prior to being so horribly interrupted, but
so rudely interrupted by an assassination attempt.
But the chart.
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that, in my last week, we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart. It's become quite a famous chart.
Yeah.
But that was the lowest point ever recorded. It was a really, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe. You see what happened. They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Guys like Tom Holman and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. These are all people that they've been on television. They says the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks, catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where many people come in there, they have contagious diseases. We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting literally records, and all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes. And in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that. But they were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart was very important for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, but we also need to shut down illegal immigration, and especially unvetted illegal immigration, because and that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that accurately represent your position?
I say it very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked.
Yeah.
Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. They had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this.
Hey, Brother John.
On tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that
How are we doing?
really going to go after you, and we're really harassing people
listening
horribly.
to a little
And
Donald
then all of
Trump,
a sudden, for
Elon
politics,
Musk.
she says, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible, and I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake.
Today's my birthday.
Now they're also saying they did a good
heard
job.
that.
We
Happy
had the worst
birthday.
numbers in the history of the world.
You got a
Not
lot of
of our
irons in the
country.
fire.
There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12 million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country, many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Asia, they're coming from the Middle East, they're coming from countries that are stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. And you know, you look at, it's so sad,
huge,
October 7th, because it should have never happened. It's so sad when you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a defective government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. But where you see it the best is the border.
Oh,
because you
have
millions of people coming in a month. And then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months
It sounds
that they
like he
can
has a
do something,
mouthpiece
but they
then
won't
or
do
something,
anything.
right?
It's all talk.
He's like
She's
got a list.
incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something because he's not too good.
Yeah, I mean, my grandpa used to slur, but he was drinking
it
a
is
lot, you know. So
essential to have a
You know,
secure border. I mean,
Ivanka,
you're really
she
not a
does a little
country
bit.
unless you have a
Correct.
secure border. And
secure elections, too.
You know, absolutely secure elections. And so it's just essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country. And our service, you know, our central services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities. But as we were talking about earlier, I think having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well, and I, speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, I think that like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your team? Who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are gonna, be great contributors to our society and to our economy, and and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like
Elon Musk
probably
is not an
most of the
interviewer.
illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. But some are not, and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's if somebody's like
I've always heard him being interviewed. I've never heard him actually doing the interview.
has a career in theft or robbery. I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here.
The first
because we're such a target-rich environment.
That's what I was looking at. I was looking at these numbers.
Why aren't
Alex
more people
Jones has
who have a career in
834,000.
bad things
It's
coming
going
here
to
sooner?
2
Because
billion
it's,
right here.
I mean, it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested. So
it's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I hate to say it because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it. I hate it. But you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're allowing, again, they're allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers. They're taking, frankly, their prisoners. They're emptying out their prisons. They're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're delivering them into.
That's what Castro did.
Yeah, well, he did on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
It was a much smaller scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. This is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be. And I saw it today in New York where somebody was knifed with raped the girlfriend of a man that stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters and started pulling out the knives, and bad things happened today. But this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in jail for murder and all sorts of things. And they're releasing them into our country, and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
Yeah.
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people, and it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it because now she's trying to say she had nothing to do with it, and she's such a liar because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location which had nothing to do with where the problem is. She went in and out, I guess, because she was getting a lot of pressure, but had nothing to do with the problem is. But she was the border czar, and people can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge.
Oh, you got
she
an
could
upgrade?
have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known what happened. You could shut the border down, he wouldn't even know the difference. But the fact is that she was border czar. But if you don't have to
Looks
call
like
her
my
that.
new women,
The
not
fact is, you
one
could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst ever.
It's simply not working.
No, it's horrible.
Whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see things, you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border.
Let me get on my private jet and fly
and I have
over
to
the
say,
border.
at least the people that I saw did not look friendly.
These are
people can look at my video and say, hey, these people look friendly. They don't look
Elon
super
Musk's
friendly, so-
These are people that Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And, the caravans are coming in, and they're putting, and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And you would be doing it, and so would I. And everyone would say, oh, what a terrible thing to say. The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them. But these are people that are non-productive. They are just not productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not workers or they don't want to work or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in many cases. And they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are really brutal people. And they're coming into our country at levels that have never been seen before. And I saw an ad just before I got on the air.
It's the first time I've heard Trump say all of that part.
And I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years.
Yeah, no,
we have 20 million people for it. It's a terrible.
Yeah, I think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country.
You don't have a country left. Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. We think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, the 4. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from everywhere. And I had to stay in Mexico.
Yeah, I think this is a super important point. Like people, it's like, basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico.
No, Mexico less.
It's just the border. It's just the border with Mexico. But the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything.
We're already overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York, and I love that place. And what they're doing to it is horrible. What they're doing to it, and all the courts do is they try and focus on Trump. Okay, let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa, from the Congo. They're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they drop them. They take them out of jails, which is very expensive, to maintain the jails. Although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons. They take them out and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, "Don't ever come back, or you're going to be executed." And they don't want to come back, but they won't come back.
Sure.
But they're coming from Africa. They're coming from
Elon's
Asia.
the most famous
They're coming from the Middle East.
African-American,
They're
isn't
coming
he?
from South America.
Just
They're
Earth.
coming from
Rest of Earth,
everywhere.
basically.
And there are a lot of really
everywhere
bad
on Earth.
ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth.
I can't believe there's 1.2 million people in the space, and the new can't keep 200
Elon,
people
we're
without
gonna have-
aggression.
Just to finish this up, we're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country. What they've done to our country. Think of it, with in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% put into the United States. The same with other countries.
Sure.
Some are 30%. Some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of it?
Yeah.
And they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate. Don't forget, I beat Biden. He failed in the debate miserably. And, some people said, "Oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly," or "I did well in the debate." The first night they said, "Wow." One of the people at CNN said, "That was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed." And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated. And I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different.
Yeah.
Look, she hasn't done an interview since this whole scam started. And say what you want. This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice way or we can do it the hard way.
Yeah, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him.
What they did with this guy, and I'm no
yeah.
fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it.
Well,
and we wouldn't have had Afghanistan. But we think of it, you take a few of those events away, and we have a different world. We would also have inflation was caused by oil.
Yeah, no. I think you're making an excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do, and do they fear the American president, or is there someone they do not respect and do not fear? And I think they would. They rightfully be. I mean, look at the footage of the assassination. They're like, okay, President Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean, that's like. Whereas I think people are not going to be, and they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That if the American president is someone that, like, evil dictators are scared of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people, frankly. I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But, they put our country in danger with that stuff, too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And
Tony
we would talk a
Stevenson,
lot
he's always
about
got a good point
Ukraine.
here
It
about
was the
how
apple of
Trump's
his
not
eye.
a good person.
But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. You know, I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest, I think, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say, I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No, he actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline, the biggest pipeline. They were looking at that to fund, and this pathetic president gets in there, and the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 40,000 people, pipeline workers, shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow.
Yeah.
I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
He shuts that down, and he approves the Russian pipeline.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, it's inconsistent. Certainly but I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing, to listeners, the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how much that matters to global security. Because there's some real tough characters out there, and if they don't think the American president is tough, they will do what they want to do.
I know every one of them.
And that puts the whole world in danger.
Elon, I know every one of them, and I know them well. I know Putin, I know President Xi, I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, oh, this is terrible. He said, I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough, they're smart, they're vicious, and they're going to protect their country, whether they love their country. They probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these are tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even believe it. They can't believe this happened. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at,
the young
Israel,
kid.
they're all waiting for an attack from
always
Iran.
got something
Iran
cool
would
to
not
say
be
here.
attacking, believe me. When I was there, and I say it with respect, because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll pass. They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise. You want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil, but they had no money, and Israel would have never been attacked. It is zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. Getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Kim Jong-un. When I met with President Obama just before entering, it's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea. I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man and, all the different things. But all of a sudden I got a call.
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
Yeah, they were epic everything. He said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger and my red button works. And then I called him Little Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden I got a call from him. And they said they want to meet. They want to meet me. And we met, as you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam.
and I got along with him great. We were in no danger. But President Obama, thought we were going to end up in a war, a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's got a lot of nuclear stuff too.
Exactly.
He's got plenty of nuclear. He can do plenty of damage. So
yes, I mean, it's because I mean, people like Kim Jong-un, they respond to strength, not weakness.
Well,
and
he and I had a good relationship. Remember I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before. I walked onto. I wouldn't say let's bring up Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land, and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. I always say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden, and Bush to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat. The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries now that have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war would have been, that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite. Everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disastrous. Sure. Hey, look, just in the 2 armies, you lost 500,000 people. And Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story. But if you think about it, Russia's gone, Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. They've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force. Yeah. Sure. And it's very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight. And we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that. And a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a man that actually made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a World War III right now for no reason whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity, and it's something that people have I think after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from other
100%.
countries.
And one of the things
And,
we're going to do is
it's-
we're going to build
yeah.
an Iron Dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best Iron Dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection, because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an Iron Dome? Israel has one. Some other places have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an Iron Dome. But with all of that being said, to me that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they can't buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen, and it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot. And we discussed the border at great length. It's nice to have a forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on you.
No, they could not.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty sad when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty sad.
Absolutely.
But the big thing now is the economy, Elon. And as much as I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation, it doesn't matter what you make. The inflation has eaten you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing that's happening. And we'll end that quickly.
Well, I think a lot of a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply. And if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services, that's inflation. So really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending. And we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not sensible? Right. And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceeded the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion.
It's interest,
and it keeps growing.
I rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military. Did a great job on it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were, and bombers that were 70 years old, and we did a great job in that. Then we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy prices down. Energy started at the price of gasoline. Now your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you. That doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable, wind and different things, you're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of energy if our country will be competitive with China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're going to need a lot of electricity. You're going to need tremendous electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
Sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government overspending.
Right.
Would you agree that we need to take a look at government spending and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible and so the country lives within its means, just like a person
The
does?
waste is incredible, and nobody negotiates prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it, like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general walks in, "Sir, would you please sign this document?" And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s. And the price was $5.7 billion for two planes. Now, now they're highly sophisticated.
That's insane.
They're even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're very, I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's 5.7.
That's a crazy
It's
number.
a crazy number. But I said, I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane. And you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other items.
Multiply it by a
the
zillion,
numbers are astronomical.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Well, I mean, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love
if it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But, if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy to help
by the way,
out.
congratulations.
Yeah.
I just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big,
Malay's awesome.
he's great. And he's a big MAGA fan, that he ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought everything, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like 2,000%. Exactly. They had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to have that pretty soon. I think we have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They don't include a lot of the items that should be included.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money effectively, and having just like so many departments you can't even name them all. And what Milei is doing is he's cutting government spending. He's simplifying things. He's putting in regulations that make sense. and we're Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement in prosperity. But it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. In the I think in the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy, we can run the country into the ground. And that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38. Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to the top. They're a top 6 or 7. But we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states, where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho, not every state will do great, because states that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the 50, I would bet that 35 would do great, and 15 of them, or 20 of them, will be as good as Norway. Norway is considered great. You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt, everybody working. They're really well-run. Sure. And maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of, the land or the sun and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages that some people have. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better, because it'll be a pretty bad situation. But if you think about it, you'll have some of these states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than half what it is in Washington. And these people don't care about the students in these, faraway states. And it would be, it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. I think you're making a good point in that if the states have to if each state has to compete against other states, then people will naturally move to states where it's better.
Well, like California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But some of these places are just badly run. But it's almost going to force them to run better, and they won't do it good initially. But you're not going to do worse than you're doing right now. And I would say that the cost, you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%. And you'd have a little monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English, as an example. Give us a little English, right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. No, but I mean, too much. I mean, some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving so much U-Haul.
It's actually amazing.
People moving out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois. So many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? I saw where you left California and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job. But, I mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses? And their taxes are already really high. The taxes are among the highest taxes. You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job in their crime-ridden places. You wonder, how do they continue to just go on? It's not a good situation.
I think the only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're not getting bailed out by the federal government.
Right. Well,
That's
you're
the
going
only
to
thing
have
that's going to
that.
get them changed.
You remember the area in California where they had that, where I guess somebody had sticky fingers and they stole a lot of money, and they went into a form of chapter, and it was very nasty for a period of time. But now it's probably the most popular place in all of California. So at some point, something like that may have to happen. But the problem is you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So what is he going to be? Is he going to be a great governor? And you have people. I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of these, and some are very good, and some are just horrible.
Well, I think that the larger point here, too, as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy, a lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that save money, and for people that are working day to day, it's just a form of taxation, and if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard of living, and that's a really big deal.
Well, the people that got hurt worst are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it all through, their younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money and then they got no interest on their money and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. When I look at bacon costing 4 or 5 times more than it did a few years ago, when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people they can't believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at it's sticker shock. They call it sticker shock, right?
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two things, which is that if you solve government overspending, you solve inflation, which improves living standards of the average person, and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations, so because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason, but unless you've got effective deregulation, like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been 40 years since we had anyone really. During your administration, we made some progress, but I think there's an opportunity to make, I think, radical progress with sensible regulation. If
Elon,
those two things, those are the big deals.
We set a record. We did more deregulation and more restrictions on all of the different businesses than any other president. Remember, I had the rule for every one we put in, you have to get rid of 10 or 12. And we did radical cuts on all of that. And a lot of that's being put back by this administration. And we did radical cuts on things that weren't necessary. But we were all set. We had the best economy ever maybe in the world. And then what happened is COVID came in, and we had to focus on that, and nobody knew what it was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But, I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got the credit. But had that not happened, a gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle-income people, not only businesses. But we did it for businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is when Biden came in, he got trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. You didn't need it anymore. We got over that bad period where everybody was dying and feeling, it was just not a good period. Interestingly, during his administration, many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration, and we really got the brunt of it. But people don't realize more people died during his administration than ours. But it diverted us from doing what I wanted to do. But we had the greatest for almost 3 years. We had the great, and you know that probably better than anybody. So many of your friends said to me, the best years we've ever had in business were during the Trump years, and also said that African American, Hispanic American were so incredible. They were having the best. Asian American women, men, young people without a diploma, young people that graduated from the best colleges, from MIT, from the Wharton School, from all of the great colleges, Harvard. They were doing better, and people without a diploma were doing better, and everybody was happy. And then COVID came, and we had the problem is they spent trillions and trillions of dollars. They wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and we wouldn't be having inflation right now, which is killing our country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should probably say something about maybe my views on climate change and oil and gas, because I think it's probably different from what most people would assume. Because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this regard, which is that I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry and the people that have worked very hard in those industries to provide the necessary energy to support the economy. And if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving, and the economy would collapse. So it's I don't think it's right to sort of vilify the oil and gas industry, and the world has a certain demand for oil and gas, and it's probably better if the United States provides that than some other countries. Sure. And it would help with prosperity in the U.S. And at the same time, obviously, my view is like we do over time want to move to a sustainable energy economy, because eventually you do run out of. I mean, you run out of oil and gas. It's not there. It's not infinite. And there is some risk. I think the risk is not as high as a lot of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually simply gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So I mean, it still gives us. So what it means is like we still have quite a bit of time, but so there's not like we don't need to rush, and we don't need to stop farmers from farming or prevent people from having steaks or basic stuff like that. Like you can leave the farmers alone.
I agree. How crazy is that? Where I mean, you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle, and the whole world is a little crazy. But it's largely taken its lead from us. I just say though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to create your electric car and create the electricity needed for the electric car. Fossil fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And, so you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able to, but I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. Much of it hasn't even been found yet.
Yeah.
But there are tremendous, like Anwar. I got Anwar in Alaska approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Everybody tried. Nobody could do it. I got it approved. The first thing that Biden did was unimprove it, to get rid of it. He ended it. His secretary went in and she ended it. And what a disgrace. That's Anwar. That's bigger, or they think it could be bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia. But they went in and they terminated it. And I'll get it going very quickly, because not only is it big for Alaska, I mean, you talk about economic development, that for the United States, I mean, that is, they say bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same size, and pure, really good stuff. And, they end it. So I think we have, perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that time, something will come around that will be very good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my estimate would be, a little more aggressive than that, but it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years stuff. That's obviously BS. But I mean, my view is like if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. I mean, I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates, if you start going from 2 or 3 to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the CO2, and I think we don't want to get too close to 1,000 ppm, because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like that's considered like an industrial hazard,
right?
Just so it's that's actually, you start getting headaches and stuff. So it's even without global warming, it's not comfortable to live. So you don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think we want to just move over, and if I don't know, 50 to 100 years from now, we're I don't know, mostly sustainable, I think that'll probably be okay. So it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think it is something we need to move towards. And on balance, it's probably better to move there faster than slower. But like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry, and without causing hardship in the short term, I think this can be done. Without people can still have a stake, and they can still drive gasoline cars, and it's okay. It's like, it's not, I don't think we should vilify people for it, but I think we should just generally lean in the direction of sustainability. I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy generation in the future, and it's certainly trending that way. And so you get the solar power, combine that with batteries, so because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to charge the electric cars, and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla's trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars, we don't believe that environmentalism, that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So we make sure that our cars are beautiful, that they drive well, that they're fast, they're sexy. I mean, they're cool. In fact, literally, I mean, this sexy joke, Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y spells out sexy. It's probably the most expensive joke out there. But I don't know, I like cheesy humor, So, but I'm a big fan of, like, let's have an inspiring future, and let's work towards a better future, and we can do so without demonizing people.
I'm okay. It's very interesting. You use the word global warming, and today they use the word climate change, because you have some places that go up, and so they were getting themselves in a little trouble with the word global warming, because not every place is warming. Some places are going the opposite direction. But I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with solar panels on the roofs of your cars and on the trunks of the cars, and it just seems like something that at some point you will come up with. I'm sure you'll be the first. But it would seem that a solar panel on the roofs, on flat surfaces, on certain surfaces might be good.
Yeah.
At least in certain areas of the country where you have the world, where you have the sun. But I would think, and I have no idea because that's not my world, but I would think that this would be something that would be interesting. But the one thing that I don't understand is that people talk about global warming, or they talk about climate change, but they never talk about nuclear warming. And to me, that's an immediate problem, because you have, as I said, 5 countries where you have major nuclear, and probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where you need a strong American president, because you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have 5 countries and getting more. China is much less than us right now, but they're going to catch us sooner than people think. They're way lower. Russia and us are number one, and I mean, we're sort of tied. And China is far behind, but they're developing at a level that, you're not surprised to hear, very fast. They'll end up catching up, maybe even surpassing. But to me, the biggest problem is not climate change. It's not, and everything's, a problem, but it's degrees. To me, the big problem is the nuclear power. The power of nuclear is so great. And when I talk about I'll prevent World War III, I will. But the truth is that you have to, because this is no longer army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is a level of destruction and power that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, and actually, there's the bad side of nuclear, which is a nuclear war, very bad side. But there's also, I think, nuclear electricity generation is underrated.
You're right.
And it's actually, people have this fear of nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. And if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by, say, I mean, I'm not going to try to pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining operation. And there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. And you compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better. So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering. But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done. So that
maybe they'll have to change the name. The name is it's a rough name. There are some areas like when you see what happened in
bad branding.
We'll have to rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something. No, it has a branding problem. When you see what happened,
it does have a branding problem.
When you see what happened in Japan, where they say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see that? And in Russia, where they had the problem, where they, there's a lot of bad things happened, and they have a problem. And they say that in 2,000 years, people will start to occupy the land again. You realize it's pretty bad.
No, that's not true.
But you're right about it. It's amazing.
It's actually not that bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, like people were asking me in California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it. And I donated a solar water treatment, a solar powered system for a water treatment plant. And
but you haven't been feeling so well lately, and I'm worried about it.
No, but I mean,
I'm only kidding.
It's fine, It's like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full cities again. So it's really not something that
That's right.
So it's not as scary as people think, basically. But let's see. I mean, are there some other topics we should touch on? Like lawfare. I think we need to be concerned about
what they've done to this country.
Obviously,
yeah. Well, we just won the big case in Florida. This was a Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me, with this nonsense and just nonsense. And the big case in Florida we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury, and they use the local DAs, they use the local attorney generals, like Fani, Fani, spelled Fani, Fani, and it's all a big hoax, and it's all run from there, like in Manhattan. One of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never done this before, and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare. It's a terrible thing, and never happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world countries, but it's never happened. And the incredible thing is it actually drove my numbers up because people see, fortunately I have a platform like you, or, in all fairness, like a conversation like this, where I can talk about it and people understand. I mean, you fight for election integrity and you end up getting indicted because you're fighting for election integrity. And when the day comes that you can't fight for election integrity, you don't have a country anymore. So what happens is they went after their political opponent, me. Now Biden's, close to vegetable stage, in my opinion. Okay, I looked at him today on the beach. And I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him? Does he have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because it looks so bad. And it's ridiculous. I mean, and he's been doing that for a long time. He can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's meant for children and old people to lift. And he can't lift it. The whole thing is crazy.
Well, he's clearly, he's clearly like, we just don't have a president right now.
You don't have a president. And she's going to be worse than him because she is a San Francisco liberal who destroyed San Francisco. And then as Attorney General, she destroyed California. You talk about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco. She was the original Attorney General in California. What she has done to California is, well, you know better than I do. You just left California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states there, you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you don't have to even put up, and then they never find the people unless they kill again, and then they let them out again. Our country is becoming a very dangerous place. And she is a radical left San Francisco liberal. And now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible, but she wants to be more Trump than Trump.
Yeah.
I want a wall.
I think that's,
she wants to release all the prisoners that are in detention. And some of these guys are really bad.
Right.
That just came out today. She doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels. In your business, everything you do is obsolete, almost, well, not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to. The only thing that's not obsolete is a wall and a wheel. And the wall, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add 200 miles. We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant, I said, wow, that means that they actually do want to have open borders. She wants to have open borders, and now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
Yeah, this is simply not true. This is simply not true.
And everybody knows it's not true. It's a disgrace that she can say it.
No, I mean, obviously, what's happening sort of overnight is they're rewriting history and making Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far left.
Worse than Bernie Sanders. She is considered more liberal by far than Bernie Sanders. She's a radical left lunatic, and if she's going to be our president, very quickly you're not going to have a country anymore. And she'll go back to all of the things that she believes in. She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no fracking, zero. Now all of a sudden she's saying, no, I really want to see fracking. If they got in, the day she got in, she'll end fracking. And by the way, if people didn't think that, the lunatics that really believe in that, they won't vote for her. Like the Palestinians and Israel. She is so anti-Israel, and she's bad for both. Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him, both sides. That was a hard thing to do, unification.
Yeah, no. I mean, Netanyahu came to give a talk to a joint Senate and House sitting, and I was there, and Kamala stood him up. What does that say?
I think it's highly disrespectful. And I say, if you're a Jewish person, or if you believe in Israel, if you're a person that, is a very pro-Israel, if you vote for her, it's worse than Biden. And Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your head examined. And you see tonight, I mean, as we're doing this, I'm seeing reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from hundreds and maybe thousands of rockets. Their Iron Dome, as they call it, as we all call it, but their shield that they build, that can be swamped. We'll use the term that's appropriate, swamped. But they swamp it by shooting enough missiles. You know this better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles, they can't defend themselves. They just obliterate the whole place. And that's what some people think they're looking to do. And we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United States of America with these people. And I'm telling you, she'll be worse than him because she's a believer in being radical left, and he wasn't.
I think you're right. I mean, you really, it's important for the public that may be listening to this to look at Kamala's track record, before the last month, and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it, because it is her behavior has been far left, and we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it sound like Kamala's moderate when she in fact is not moderate.
Well, her running mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay, now that's all I have to hear. Tampons in boys' bathrooms, and that means she believes in that too. I mean, she picked this guy because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an anti-Israel radical left person. But she is far worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders. If we have her as a president, if we have a Democrat at this moment as the president, I don't think our country can survive.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in massive trouble, frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. And I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country for this election. And I'm just stating my opinion. Now, you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission, saying, to not have disinformation on during this discussion that we're having, and there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries. And what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different forum, NATO, we protect them. And yet, if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business. We have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which people don't know. It sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough as China, but they're bad. And I let them know it. And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them, with Ukraine. So we're in for 250 billion, and they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. If you add up the European nations that, in terms of an economy, it's about the same size, wouldn't you say, as us? And they're in, and they're in much greater risk. They're right there. We have an ocean separating us from, in this case, the enemy would be Russia. It used to be for the Soviet Union, but let's assume they're close enough. And what happens is they're in for 70-something million. I think even less than that, billion. And we're in for about 250 billion, and it could be a lot higher than that. And I say, why aren't you going to equalize? Why aren't they paying what we're paying? And they're in much more, it's much more important for them because of the fact that, they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not. But they should, and I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And the United States the United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I said, I went in and I said, you got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat, but you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in. And
I think a lot of the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses.
And then we get taken advantage of on trade. So think about it.
Well, I mean, the point of NATO is defending Europe, and it's it's like, then okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't make sense. That's unfair, and that is an appropriate thing to address.
Well, when you talk about cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do, because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky. He was very honorable to me because when they went with the Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and, said, oh, he was very threatening. He said, no, it was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous for our country than the Russias and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
Yeah.
Now they've taken advantage of
absolutely.
us incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah. Well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech, because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media. You didn't try to inhibit their freedom of speech, and I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it. Like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not smart. She's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, where am I? Where am I going? So anyway, but no, he wouldn't have this.
That's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but, we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that we can have a conversation, and I'm able to get it out because I get treated unfairly.
This is a really big point. You can actually have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
And you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like it's not possible.
That's
so this is like talking to an NPC.
No.
So it's just impossible.
Well, but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I got along with all these. I got along with Kim Jong-un. We had dinner. We had everything. And he really liked me, and I got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. A lot of people said, oh, do you think you really?
That's for
Let
sure.
me tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss. But we had a good relationship. And he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man, he said. He's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But, in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it, but I guess you are. You should be allowed to say it if it's true. But we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now, Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating or even standing together? It is, the whole concept is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her on Time magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing. And actually, she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman. So we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah, well, maybe it's like, I think part of what people in America want to feel excited and inspired about the future. They want to feel like the future is going to be better than the past, and that America is going to do things that are greater than we've done in the past, reach new heights that make you proud to be an American, and excited about the future.
They want the American dream back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people, they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. The Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent, and when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?" It was.
Yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do.
I'm gonna give you a break.
Like, we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars. We could build high-speed connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world. We'll have fast transport. It's possible to solve traffic with tunnels. We've already made great progress in Vegas doing that, and and just do things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw
And,
what
like,
you did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and you could do that all over. You could do that all over. It's deep.
Yeah,
You don't even need much structure. Assuming you're in the right area.
No, it's straightforward.
It's amazing.
I think we could do some things that like China's got incredible high-speed rail between its cities, but I think it's actually possible with tunnels if with deregulation, with an ability to actually, where it's like legal to actually do the tunnels. Then you could have high-speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world for high-speed transport between cities, and that would be something that Americans can say, wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the world. That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an American.
And much safer than surface trains, where there is a danger there, with crazy people. It's much safer, much better. And, it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating. And I've seen the systems and how they work, and the bullet trains, they call them, I guess. And they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable, with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close. And it doesn't make sense that we don't. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also, like, there's, I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies. I mean, if you take the sort of, like, I think there's room for some reform at the FDA for improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's lives. And
I worked very hard on that. We got that down to the lowest number ever, and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things approved in the FDA at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were really pretty amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4, and I got some things done very quickly. But it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. Just takes too long.
Yeah, it just takes too long, and it's you end up in the same with the approval, but it just it takes years instead of something that I think could potentially take months, and that improves people's lives. I think I just wanted to hop on this point that, like, there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations, because otherwise they just keep building up every year, and you get like hardening of the arteries, and eventually everything's illegal or takes forever, and then we just ossify as a society. We can't make any progress, and it's a really big deal.
Elon, just getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in, and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. But people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved where you can, you basically, look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability. The country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list if somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative. Okay. And as you know, we got it done. We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying to get this done for 58 years. And it sounds simple, but it wasn't, because, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it, but we got it done. Somebody you sign a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody. and we got it done. And we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to try. Hopefully you never need it. But if you do, you don't have to travel to Asia. You know, people, if they had money, they go to Asia, they go to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happened. They'd go home and die.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and actually, to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they get more regulations than we do. So why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did something that really, they've been trying to do it for 50 years, and they just couldn't get it done, and I got it done. And it's really something. But you're right. Some people go to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe, and it's a drug that, generally speaking, would work. It's pretty crazy.
Absolutely,
you're right.
And I think so long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons, and like these are the risks, these are this is the risk, and like you make your own decision. That makes sense.
Well, I think just you know, in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get nervous, because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how you can see that right away. How many? What is the number? Wow. What is it?
Well,
wow.
I think in terms of people,
that's bigger than you said. You said 25, and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70. And I guess over a period of time, hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
Well, I think actually in terms of the number of people that will hear this conversation over the next few days to weeks, it's going to be hundreds.
That's what they say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an honor. I just asked this: are you better off now, or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that, and nobody's better off now. Inflation has killed it, and they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the colleges over. I mean, it's ridiculous, but all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. Maybe I'll call it Kamala migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always try to get to the ground truth by just asking people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, have any of your friends been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, 3 of her friends in 3 separate incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets in New York. And I said, well, what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and they just know
they always get away.
Nothing's going. And they don't even bother reporting it because they know that they're not going to, people are not going to get prosecuted. They just let violent criminals out in New York.
The only one that gets prosecuted is Donald Trump. They prosecute Trump.
Yeah, I mean it's just obviously messed up.
Oh, it's terrible.
If violent criminals are getting off scot-free, and meanwhile the New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like what's this? And I think the sort of sensible public looks at this and says, what the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system. The legal system is supposed to be protecting the public from violent criminals, and it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decision about who should be president, as opposed to some legal case.
Once they start this precedent, because this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a very bad precedent what they're doing in terms of going after their political opponent, and that's all it is. It's going after their political opponent, and then you get a judge who's a strong Democrat, and I'm being nice when I say that. In many cases, crooked as hell. But you get a judge, and you go into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote, and you'll have a jury pool with people that hate Republicans or hate. It could also be the other way, though, because it could start the other way in areas where they hate Democrats, and you get into a Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is losing. New York City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me, because these people say, we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system. You have an unfair system of justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So, all of that stuff is important. But the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of inflation.
I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Right.
Absolutely. So,
and I just want to congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. We can talk. You and I can talk about rockets.
It's kind of you to say. Thank you.
Tunnels. We can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars. So many things. And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty, I'll say. So it's an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And, we have a phrase, make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great again. And we can do it. We can do it now. But if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad. We have to do a lot of things.
I think that's a very real risk.
Yeah, it's a big risk.
It's a very real risk.
Yep.
And it's, I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before. And if you look at my record, I've actually been, I'm not like, sometimes they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles and, solar and batteries, helping them with the environment. And I actually, I supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president. And, so it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed-in-the-wool long-term Republican. I'd call myself, historically a moderate Democrat. But now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country. I think a lot of people thought, the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not. And obviously, we're just going to see an even further left administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. She was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. You can Google it. I mean, it's not we're not making this up. That's how she was brought up. So, and we want to have a future that is prosperous. And I think we're just at this critical juncture. And I think this is a case of America is going to at a fork in the road, and
true.
And I think it will take the path to, like, you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself. But I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before. And I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left. And so this is to people out there who are in the moderate camp to say, I think you should support Donald Trump for president. And I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in deep trouble if it goes the other way.
Well, I want to thank you. And, I actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's even more of an honor to have your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But, when you think of her, San Francisco 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America. And now it's almost not livable there. And California likewise. And she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California. And she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope the elections are going to be run honestly. And we're going to turn this country around. We're going to do things and we can do it fairly quickly. And we have to get rid of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at us. They think we're stupid to accept these people. These are radical, stone cold killers in many cases and terrorists. and they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And we have to take them out.
Yeah, I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we want to restore both the perception and reality of respect in the judicial system, just stop the lawfare, and I think that's like, and how are those even right-wing positions? I think those are just that's just common sense, and that's I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. I don't understand, the whole, they call it progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it liberal or progressive. I don't understand how somebody could say that it's okay for them to empty prisons into our country. And again, I told you their crime rates all over the world are going way down, which makes sense. In fact, the next time what we'll do is, if something happens with this election, which would be a horror show, we'll meet the next time in Venezuela, because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country. Okay, so we'll go, you and I will go, and we'll have a meeting and dinner in Venezuela, because that's what's happening. Their crime rate's coming down and our crime rate's going through the roof. And it's so simple. And you haven't seen anything yet, because these people have come into our country and they're just getting acclimated. And they don't know about being politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police. We have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their job without being destroyed.
Well, absolutely. And it's obviously demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes. And then you arrest a violent criminal, and then the DA, doesn't prosecute and that's let the guy out. Well, then, like, why should a police officer risk their life to arrest a violent felon?
Well, even worse, Elon,
nothing's going to happen.
Even worse, they prosecute the police officer. They go after it and they prosecute the police officer, and they take away his pension. They take away his job. He loses his family. He loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when there was that case where sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times Square in New York, and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to California. Well, what is I mean, that is a gross indignity against the United States, and that's how, I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? How can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never seen anything. We see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous profession, but it's something they're very proud of, and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things. But I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like punching, stand-up fighting a police officer. There were two of them, and you had about six of these guys, and they're punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead if they did that. They'd be shot.
Yes.
They would be shot instantly. And, they come from these countries, and it's taking them a while to realize that we don't do that in this country. But in their own country, if they stood on a street and had a fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness. And it's such a sad, it's such a sad thing to see. And that's the reason you have crime, by the way, because we don't do anything about it.
Yeah, we just cannot have a situation where our police officers are beaten up on camera by a gang of illegal immigrants, and then nothing happens to the guys that beat up the cops. I mean, and they're let out. This is unacceptable.
Well, we're going to change it, and we're going to get them out of the country. When I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take them back. In the case of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some others, you couldn't get them back. And I said, really? Oh, you can't get them back? Because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries so you couldn't land a plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was $750 million. I said, good. Tell them they're in default. they're delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they won't accept
Yeah,
it. And you know what happened? They all called me,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
one of them. They said, we would be honored to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was so easy. But it's one of those things. And we got them back. We took in so many, you know, the MS-13 is probably
Yeah.
the worst gangs in the world. They're the most vicious, violent. We took them out of here by the thousands and got them out of here. And their countries took them back. And because I said, you're not getting any more economic aid. And once I said that, they were nice. They wouldn't take them back for Obama.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take them back for anybody. And now we have a problem because we have this guy, and they don't take him back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
Yeah. It's just gotta be done. We just can't have whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have, because they won't prosecute citizens either, not just illegals. So if you can't have violent, repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get incarcerated.
That's right.
Because they will obviously, by definition, continue to hurt people. And I think where part of this comes from is that there's and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally agree with that. You want to have empathy, but you also have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You have one layer deep empathy. You got to say, like, what if you don't incarcerate this person? Who are they going to hurt? Who are they might kill someone. They might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have empathy for the victims. And there's a lack of empathy for the victims of the criminals, and too much empathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. That's why you want to have deep empathy for society as a whole, not shallow empathy for criminals.
Right. And we have to give our police officers the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job, but we have to let them do their job. And if we don't do that, it's going to all disappear. There's never been a society like this where you're allowed to do anything you want and nothing happens. And I'm talking about violent crime. And it's going to get more violent because these are really, really violent people. And we're going to get them out of our country, and we're going to get them back to because they were sent here by the presidents and by the various people that run those countries. And I know every one of those guys. And they're smart people, and they're streetwise people. And they really think that the USA is stupid. They think we're run by stupid people, and they happen to be right. But when I was there, we had no problem. We got them out. We took out thousands of MS-13 gang members. We brought them back. And now, again, it's the same old story. We don't do it. And they actually gave them a big increase in aid. They raised it up to billions of dollars, and they get nothing for it. So, I hope everybody's going to vote for Trump, and we're going to get this country straight. Yeah. And I didn't need this. I didn't need this. I had a very nice life. I didn't need to go through court systems and go through all the other stuff and run at the same time. I have to run. I have to go through fake trials with, in some cases, corrupt judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life. I have great locations. I have beautiful oceans that I have places. But I felt it was important. And if I had to do it over again, you probably think I'm crazy for doing it, actually. But if I had to do it over again, I would have done it over again, because this is so much more important than me or my life. We're going to save this country. This country is going down. And these people are bad people that we're running against, and they're liars. They make statements. They do things that are so bad. They say they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're going to stop crime.
Like, the facts speak for themselves.
It's so incredible.
Speak for themselves. Like it's got to the point where people just don't even bother reporting crime in a lot of cities because they know nothing is going to happen. That's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. So it's just my values. I'm just saying to people out there, like the things I think are important for the future is, like, we've got to have safe cities, we've got to have secure borders, we've got to have sensible spending, and we've got to have deregulation, and so we can have a prosperous future. And then we want to have some exciting, sort of moonshot projects that people can get fired up about. And that's the future I'm looking for. And I'm pro-environment, but I'm not against. I'm not like I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry because they're keeping civilization going right now. And but I do think we want to move at a reasonable speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think and so I mean that's why I'm supporting you for president.
Well, I appreciate it. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country. We're going to be giving tremendous incentives. We want companies to build here, not to build in other locations. And we want to create jobs. And again, it's about the American dream. You don't hear about the American dream anymore, Elon. You don't hear. You're the American dream in the truest sense, but you don't hear about the American dream anymore. And you're going to hear about it. People, they need that incentive to go out and do it. And they're going to love their lives. I mean, they're going to look forward to getting up in the morning and going to a job that they love, not a job that they can't stand, or not any job at all where they have no money, where they literally have no money. And then they end up with violence and lots of other problems. No, we're going to do some great things. And I learned a lot in the first. We had a great economy and all of that. We rebuilt the military. We did so much, but I also learned the best people. I learned the good people, the smart people, the dumb people, the people that can do things, the people, you learn. When I first came in, I tell people I was in Washington, D.C. only 17 times, according to the fake news media. I was in 17 times. I never stayed over. And you don't know people. You rely on other people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now, we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have used them had I known. Now I know everybody. And I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country. And I really appreciate this. To me, it's been a lot of fun being with you. You're an amazing guy. You've done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people, a great inspiration. And I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up. And I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. I think that election will be the most important election. And I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country, because if we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of destiny of civilization, and I think we need to take the right path, and I think you're the right path. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Thank you very much, Elon. It's a great honor, and we'll do it again sometime. And it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear you got a lot, but I hope you got a lot. I know you got a lot of them. So I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah, it was good, dude. It was good.
What was up with his talking, though?
Let me get this thing off.
I think he did have a mouthpiece or something in. I don't know.
Yeah, like a mouth guard, like you sleep with the mouth guard or something. Or maybe he has a lisp of some sorts, but when he speaks on the camera or when he speaks on the podium, the microphone doesn't pick it up as much or something. I don't know.
That was weird.
He's not the only one. Tucker Carlson has the same kind of thing. Like when you hear them talk like over a phone, it sounds way different than when he speaks at a rally live.
I don't know.
But Elon Musk wants to be a part of the Trump administration. That was one of the takeaways. I mean, if I was going to be the president and I was going to pick people in my administration who would be smarter in the areas that, Elon Musk, who's more knowledgeable than him with the experience of like government oversight for government spending and kind of going over that. I mean, Elon actually has the experience of SpaceX is way more profitable than NASA. When he's doing auto manufacture, or it's more profitable than the government bailing out Chevy and things. And he could actually say, "Look, I can help you out, but here's how you need to restructure." I mean, someone who actually knows what the hell they're talking about. Or like Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Now he's not with them anymore, but Jeff Bezos Amazon delivery is better than UPS and USPS.
Yeah.
The regular, United States mail service. So the private sectors are just way better run than the government. And it's like the government has these budgets where it's use it or lose it. You have to use it or we're going to cut your budget. So they end up just frivolous spending on stuff when you say, well, just because you're walking down the street, Johnny, and just because you have $200 in your pocket doesn't mean it needs to burn a hole. Why don't you save some of it for later? That's what you teach like a normal, human being, American. Not just whenever you have money, you just have to spend every dime you have. It's interesting, and I think Elon Musk would be a great person to have in the Trump administration. He definitely was. He wasn't correcting Trump. He wasn't fact checking like Tony was. Tony was fact checking the shit out of him.
Yeah, really. I was like, damn, dude.
What you been up to, bro?
Oh, not much. Just
sorry to hear about it.
Oh, it's actually good. I'm actually helping Jason with his 3D stuff.
Yeah.
We had a meeting Friday a week ago with the chief of staff for Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson here in North Carolina. Mark's running for governor. That went over very well. They're actually asking for another intro for the North Carolina Safer Schools Board.
And this is huge. So if for those of the people who are listening, they don't know what John's talking about. Have you ever seen school shootings and how do you prevent a school shooting? Jason and John and a couple people have come together and they're kind of bringing it to school boards, and it's to keep kids safe that are in school, school shooting. And tell me a little bit of something about that.
Yeah, so it's 3D response systems. You can find it at 3dresponse.com. It's a multi-layered security system. The best way to sum it up is think of your everyday fire suppression system or fire alarm system that is mandatory in every school, every business. It is, but it's made or developed for in the case of an active shooter situation. At the push of a button. You've got
in North Carolina, it's a button.
Yeah,
a button.
You've got law enforcement notified and on the way. The school is pretty much locked down. There's some proprietary things going on. I can't really get into, but there's a lot of stuff, a lot of security stuff going in, ballistic doors, ballistic panels, stuff like that, that protects the students and the staff, and it doesn't take away from the classroom setting. Pretty neat system. We're always, every time something like that happens, we're like, well, what could we have done? If you go to the website, they put together side by side the Uvalde shooting. If 3D response had been installed at Uvalde, there would have been no loss of life, and therefore also no multi-billion-dollar lawsuits.
Well, I mean, the thing I think is cool, after saying it, go to 3dresponse.com, is when it's just classroom, it's not like your kids are going to prison,
right,
where there's bars and chains and all this other shit. You can't even tell that this retractable thing, it just looks like a wall, and then in the event that something happens, it brings into a bulletproof shelter.
Yeah.
There's things, but like it doesn't look like you're in some kind of confined experience. It looks like there's nothing there until you push the button, and then all of a sudden there's a place where the kids can be protective, and they're not in a, hey, there's a gunman in the school and there's all these kids and all these classrooms. They can identify what classroom that the shooter's in and get there faster, section out all the other the classrooms and make sure every kid's safe. How do you put a price tag on that?
Well, exactly. And that's the thing, schools are dumping billions of dollars in security cameras, metal detectors, stuff like that, shot spotters and whatnot. The question you have to ask is, how is that going to stop somebody from getting hurt or killed? It's not. It's only going to notify somebody. I mean, a metal detector, okay, somebody walks through a metal detector with a gun, it's not going to stop a bullet. The camera's not going to stop a bullet. Like what you were saying, you know, you've got hidden panels tucked away in walls that can be pulled out. A student, a elementary kid can pull it out. It's on rollers. If your classroom has glass that looks out into the hallway, you've got a dry erase board that can be used for everyday teaching and whatnot. And, you know, it's ballistic rated. The doors are ballistic rated. They don't look any different. At the push of that button, you got 1,200 pounds of magnetic force on the door. Nobody's coming in. And
you can already chop your finger off at a school door. Those things are pretty durable.
Well, that's true, but and it's like one of the guys that was involved in a Parkland shooting down in Florida. He was a teacher. He will not teach at a school that does not have 3D response. He was actually shot. He looked out his door after he heard the first few shots and saw the shooter, and closed his door. And, you know, you kind of got to think his motor skills wasn't working. I mean, he knew what was going on. He could not get the door locked. That's how, you know, and rightfully so, how shook up he was. So the shooter saw him, and they were playing tug of war on the door. So the pushing and pulling stopped, and then 2 rounds come through the door. One of them striking him in the hip, and the other one in the hand. But you know, if he'd have had that ballistic door, I mean, you know, the bullet wouldn't have gone through. So it's a pretty neat system.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of background on me. And there was a period of time where I was in the door-to-door sales business.
Mm-hmm.
And door-to-door sales, I didn't realize I was ever going to do it. And I'm not trying to say, oh, it's so glamorous, you should do it. It's decent money. The hours aren't very long, but door-to-door salesman, it's, you know, there's a tack to it. And just, I rein all this in to say this. There is a pest control person will go to your house, and then they're going to scare the hell out of you and say, there's snakes and there's this and there's this and this. And you're like, oh shit, I'm so scared. You know, mice, and man, the neighbor had a bunch of mice, and there were some mice over here, and they're more than likely they're probably going to be like, you know what, just whatever the service is, just spray for the snakes or whatever it is. The same as with security systems. Go in the door-to-door sales is they would bring say, I need help moving, John. And you say, oh yeah, go down to Home Depot and get like a truck full of like 6, 7, 8, 9 people, whatever you want. And then take them to a nice neighborhood and drop them off. And then all these people who were damn near homeless of some sorts, but they look pretty rough. They're day laborers. Now they're like, hey man, where the hell did they go? And all these people are just walking through the neighborhood, and all the people who live there are like, man, who the hell are what's all these people? Then the next day, here comes door knockers. Hey, we're selling home security systems. You know,
wow.
But it's on a bigger level. One of the things I think is the major talking point and one of the major issues is the security, and whether it's the securing the border and the heightened crime that you're now seeing. And there's a mass shooting every day that there's a day on the calendar a year, and it's increasing so much more. Now you're saying, well, since we have all of this crime, now we need to have more security, and this is coming at a good time. And I can't think of a better investment than your children and your house and your children is probably number one. So I think you guys are onto something.
Yeah,
that's a long way to say it, though, right?
That's the thing. So I have reached out to University of North Carolina, UNC, Tar Heels. You know, some basketball followers will know them.
Anybody should know the Tar Heels, or you should be tarred and feathered at the city hall and throwing rocks at you.
Yeah, so they are. I've reached out to them. The emails have been escalated to the higher ups, and like I said, you know, we talked to Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson's chief of staff. He's very, very interested in it, and he even told us. He said, I'm not gonna lie to you. He said we've had a few companies come to us about, quote, security systems. And he said, but none of them have been multi-layered and innovative like 3D Response is. and we just got our patent about 2 weeks ago Monday. So all that's done, is locked down. And what a lot of people don't understand and realize, and maybe to the parents it don't really matter, but in the whole scheme of things, you can actually get an insurance break. However the insurance is done for schools, you can actually get a good sized discount. And I've heard through the grapevine there's even some insurance companies that are talking about not insuring companies, schools, if they don't have this system. So and if you've already got like card readers and stuff like that, 3D response can be integrated into with that. So it's not not as expensive. It's not like you're starting from scratch. You've already got some stuff in place and working, but we can integrate into that.
And some of the new schools that are being built, just build it
Yeah.
with it, but existing ones, you have to have a modification.
Yeah.
But
Because like we're working with a college now just right up the street from me, that they stay up to date on a lot of their stuff. But that was one of the questions, and I don't want to say concern, but that was one of the questions they had. It was like, we just spent X amount of money on card readers and security access, software and stuff like that. Can it be implemented with that? And yes, it can.
is it implemented or integrated?
That's a play with words, really. Yeah, it can be integrated. Yeah.
Integrated.
Yeah.
They
So
work together.
it can work with existing systems.
Cool.
As
I
far as,
thought another thing that was cool is like when you think about kids and you're like, look, dude, we barely have enough money to pay these teachers. They're underpaid, and we're having problems get quality teachers. And then like you're talking about, schools are underfunded and they have to have pep rallies and fundraisers just to buy books and stuff that kids need.
Yeah.
But the thing about the security system, it has nothing to do with the budget for like teachers and books and stuff. This is a totally different fund that it would come out of for the security.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting when Jason brought that up.
Yeah, so like 14 states right now have what they're calling the SHIELD Act. Florida, I think they're getting ready to pass it, and that's what the SHIELD Act does. It actually allocates money for this system. It can be written that way for obvious reasons, but that's what it's for. But there's grants out there. We actually have an in-house grant writer. And one of the questions I asked, North Carolina has a lottery, and when they first brought it up, said, we're going to call it the North Carolina Educational Lottery. So with a title like that, you're thinking, okay, it was going to education. Well, several years ago, for another reason, I was looking into where some of this money was going to, because my stepdaughter's elementary school AC unit went out, and they were like, well, we don't have the money to replace it. So they actually done a fundraiser. The school did a fundraiser, and I'm like, wait a minute, where's this lottery money going to? So I dug into it, and very, very little of the lottery money was going actually to schools. So one of the things that I asked, his name's Brian Levesque, the chief of staff, I asked him, I said, this educational lottery, I said, that's what it was, voted on. People have the understanding that that's what this money's going to. And don't quote me on this, but I think it was only like 40%, 37% of like that of the money from the educational lottery was going to actual schools. And I said, can money from that be used? And he said, well, that's a good idea. We'll look into it. So I was digging some more, and actually Tennessee, and I've reached out to the governor's office of Tennessee, and they've actually allocated money for just that, school security. So, there's money out there. You just, you got to find it, and then you've got to want to do it.
Well, and it's supposed to be security.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's going on with Lanu? What y'all been doing? He said he had a badass show tonight.
He's going into some kind of Twitter files.
Like when Elon took over Twitter and he was revealing all that stuff. The guy he said tonight was like, he was bragging to me. He was like, man, this is like one of the biggest ones ever. This is the only night I could get him. I was like, well,
that's true. Yeah.
Elon Musk, Donald Trump space. But yeah,
I'm gonna give him a plug for Thursday night because I'm in on that one. So Thursday night, that's going to be an interesting show.
What's up Thursday night?
So a lot of people don't know, but Christmas night of 2018, my stepson and his best friend was killed. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there here. The police department ruled it a murder-suicide. They said that my stepson shot his best friend 6 times and then turned the gun on himself. With me being in law enforcement in the past, I started asking questions that not the everyday person would know to ask, and they failed on multiple levels. They didn't do certain things. And my ex-wife and I have said from the get-go, if that's what it turns out to be, we can accept that. But there was a lot of things that were not done that should have been done. There's a lot of questions that were brought up then that have yet to be answered. So I have spent from, let's just say, January of 2019 to today, I'm actually looking at the notebook right now, doing my own investigation. And I actually...
This is happening Thursday?
This is Thursday night.
So Thursday night, it's going to be on your son, the whole thing?
Yeah. So I know the camera's messing up there, but this is Ethan.
Yeah.
This is Ethan's iPhone.
Oh, okay, I got it.
The police department said they could not get into it. Did not know how to get into it. And I'm going to get into this in the story, but I got into it. And it's crazy how it happened. But
you got the code now or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd
you find?
Come to me in a dream.
Really?
No shit. I don't want to take up your space on it, but it's crazy. But yeah, I got into it.
What'd you find?
So there are some text messages that night between him and the person that I think done it. And oddly enough, so we got the phone call at, I call it midnight 10, 0010, 12:10, whatever you want to call it, on December the 26th. My ex-wife got the phone call. But there's a text message chain that the first text message in the thread is Tuesday, December 25th at 10:01 p.m. And the text on there is indicative of prior text, but the prior text are not on here. They've been deleted.
Oh my God, it's another fucking Karen Reed type of situation going on.
The problem...
Who deleted them?
That's what we want to know. The problem is Ethan gave me his code, his passcode, about a month before all this went down. And I'm not saying he couldn't have changed it. He could have. But it wasn't a 4-digit code. It was I think it was a 6-digit code.
I think it's 4 or 6, isn't it?
Yeah. And I had written it down on a Post-it note, but I couldn't find it when all this happened. But anyway, I couldn't remember what it was. And, we had a meeting after, for a follow-up after the shooting took place. And we were talking about it. And the lead detective told me, he said, we tried his date of birth. We've tried this. We've tried that. We can't get into it. And I was like, okay. So it's been in an evidence bag. We were forced to get all of his belongings, or it was going to be destroyed. Now, the other kid's property is perfectly fine. I've got a letter from the chief of police from this agency basically telling me, don't contact us anymore. We're not going to answer any of your questions. Case is closed. I mean, it's to the point I'm going to get an attorney when I get the money. But yeah, when I got into the phone, I was like, Okay. So my ex-wife and I got together because it is in airplane mode. It is not connected to the internet because we wasn't sure if we were going to lose anything or not. But where I'm at now is, you know, and I'm going to take it to the Apple store and ask, but what I would like to do, because I do have access to his email accounts because his passwords were saved on the phone, but I'm going to see about doing a password recovery on his iCloud account. But those text messages were deleted. And I'm going to get into it more on Thursday night. But
so basically you want to see if the police got up in there and then changed the passcode to something else and after they deleted some stuff.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Because I was onto something. I was asking.
But like, let's say the person who you think did it, some low life piece of shit anyway. Why would the police protect this person? Is there any reason why?
Because they went public into all the news media agencies around that were covering this. They went public very early and said this is
suicide,
murder suicide, and they would have to eat crow to come back and say we were wrong. And it would be it's an even bigger pill to swallow to say. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here by no means, but I was onto something. I brought questions to them. They pushed me to the side. I'm sitting here with a letter saying, don't contact us anymore. We're not answering any more of your question. And I've got valid damn questions.
And you're a former police officer. So it's not like you're some fucking idiot that's just screaming at the top of the hill saying, hey, look over here. Like, bitch, I've done this job before.
Why force us to get his property
before they destroy it?
Right. Because they wanted it out of their chain of custody. Because now, I mean, technically they can come back and say, well, it's out of our chain of custody. You could have done anything.
So this is what we're going to be talking about on Thursday.
Well, I don't know that we're going to have time to get that deep in it, but we're going to start with
the basics.
With him being at our house Christmas night, 6 hours, or me taking
that's
him
terrible.
Home 6
hours. I know that experience has been tearing you up since then, and I know it sucks, dude.
Yeah,
it sucks talking about it.
But I made her that promise, and I have made Ethan that promise that I will not give up.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that there was some, if you do find that the police had it and deleted some, I mean, I know Joe Lanu, this motherfucker is like the police, advocate, and more than I've ever seen anybody in my life, but you seem to be teeter-tottering on, there's a possibility that the police could be corrupt in some situations. I mean, you're okay with admitting maybe, but not Lanu, but is this the reason why you're kind of, on the seesaw there?
No, I mean, I've always been, if I'm in the wrong, I'll tell you I'm in the wrong. I'll tell you I was wrong, apologize, and go on, try to do better in the future. If I'm right, I'm going to stand behind me being right.
Yeah.
I mean, and one of my pet peeves is do not accuse me of doing something I did not do or not doing something that I did do. If you've got a question, ask me. I'll be honest with you and answer you. Some people may say that's childish or whatever. My point in it is this: the person I think did this, I have said 99% sure I think he did it, and I've said to several people, if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to say I was wrong. Sorry. But opening this phone up, has it caused even more questions? Because there's some Snapchats in there and stuff like that. But in Joe's defense, I have talked to him and Jason.
Beep. Yeah, we have to beep all that out. We have to edit that out. I can't hear any Joe defense.
No, but I mean Joe and Jason, they do bring up valid points.
Yeah,
they do. And I can't discredit that. I mean, it's that was one of the problems. I was too close to this. I was used as the liaison between the police department and the family.
You are the family, right?
Right. I was a stepdad. But so not only is it personal for me, it's also like, no, why didn't y'all do this? Hey, did y'all do this? No, we didn't do that. Why not?
Yeah. Well, here's a question.
Well, it's not admissible in court. Well, who the hell's going to court? They're both deceased.
Yeah. We're just trying to find out what happened.
Right. Exactly.
Now, if you have, let's say the whoever this mystery person is that you know who their name is, but let's say that you do find that there's something more to it than the police, and then you do find that maybe the police just kind of brushed a couple things to the side because they, in their opinion, that they think it's not even worth their time and effort to pursue it any further. It's case closed. Let's not open up a case that's closed. But if they do find that this person did it, and this son of a bitch stands trial and is guilty, is that going to be like a big relief, like I finally did it, or a promise made and promise kept, or what would that be like if that was the situation?
So it's not about that. It's not about me saying, or us saying, I should.
It's about justice.
It's about justice, and I don't want to put a number on it, a priority on it. But there's two things at play here: justice. And they're going to stand there. Everybody involved in this case, if this is what it turns out to be, they're going to stand there in front of news cameras, and they're going to apologize to my ex-wife. And the reason I say that is number one, we tried telling them he did not do this. No way. You don't shoot your best friend 6 times at midnight. Kid had only shot a pistol 1 time and didn't like it and handed the gun back to me. This was night, no lights, and he fired all these rounds and hit a running target. No. The other thing is that it was 2 weeks before she would go out in public, because there was news agencies wanting to do interviews because we had a joint funeral service. Even the other kids' parents say he didn't do this. Ethan didn't do this. But it was 2 weeks before she would even go out of the house, because she didn't want people to see her under that light.
Yeah, you're the person who is the mother of so and so who did such and such, and you're like, shame, shame. You just, the whole public shaming you while you're trying to grieve.
Yeah, and we went to a restaurant, and as we were walking out, there was a lady. They were just a well-known restaurant on the East Coast, but there was a family sitting at a round table, and there was a lady facing us as we were walking out. And as we were walking out, my ex-wife was walking in front of me, and as I'm walking by this lady, I hear her say, "That's the mom of that kid that killed his best friend."
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what the fucking police are saying. So they're just regurgitating what's on the news. Yeah.
He did not hear that. Thank God.
Yeah.
And that, not that I wouldn't have done it anyway, but that was the straw right there. I'm like, this is, pardon my French, this is fucked up.
I don't even speak French.
This is, yeah, I made her that promise, and this is a promise I'm going to keep.
Oh yeah, dude. So that's happening Thursday with Night Court.
Yep. And she may be joining us.
Who else is coming on? Who else? So it's going to be Lanu and the whole night crew. And what else who else is going to be there? Her, maybe?
Yeah. If she can stay awake that long. But
okay.
I've sent her the link.
Who else is going to be there? Jason?
Jason will probably be on it too. Yeah. But
yeah, that'd be good.
This is me telling this story.
Yeah, it's a good story, man, and I hope that you guys get a breakthrough.
Yeah. So, and I've sent the information to. There's a podcast called Crime Junkies. I can't remember the girls' names. It's two girls.
Yeah.
I've sent the information to them. I'm going to be doing.
Apparently, you're popular with the ladies these days. I see.
So,
anyway. Well, Christy, know him. I mean, there's just that's the hall pass.
You know what? I actually sent Christy an email.
You did? What'd you say? What do you
I was asking her if she'd be interested in having somebody contact me about 3D response.
Oh, did you? And then you say that you have the hall pass with her. Say, well, look, I have a girlfriend, but if you're interested, I could always just dump her right now.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding, baby.
No, but yeah, so I didn't send well, I sent it to her and some of her staff, but
yeah.
Well,
good. So that'd be nice if you actually get a response back from her.
Yeah, that would be cool.
For those of you who don't know, John has like a secret crush. Well, it's not even a secret really at this point.
That's public.
He has this public crush on Christy Nome. I mean, it's just one of those. She has all the right things. Checks all the boxes.
She does. She has all the
We
boxes.
found this out during the RNC. Yeah, the DNC's coming up.
Yeah, so I've been hearing that what was it I heard the other day? Something about some validated security issues going on, like some threats.
For the DNC?
Yeah. So the FBI and the Secret Service has stepped their game up.
Yeah, well, it's when
Yeah.
the actual real president should have the biggest security detail, and vice president, versus former president. So, if there's another shooting on the Secret Service watch, did you see the one where Kamala was speaking and then the Secret Service broke into this barbershop or something and was there for 2 hours taking a shit or something and occupying the bathroom without permission?
Yeah, picking the lock and going in. Yeah.
Pick the lock and they taped over the camera.
Yeah, and you would think with everything, well, that's the thing. You would think being under the microscope that they're under right now. I mean, it'd be one thing if you'd done it not knowing there was a damn security camera there. That's one thing. But to look up or know that there's a security camera there and cut off a piece of tape and say, "Hey, we're gonna cover this up." You got the video before they cover it up. What the? This is elementary stuff, people. I mean,
is it? I don't know. The Secret Service, they're getting a bad rap these days. The DEI is just there's a microscope on it. I don't know. The Secret Service is supposed to be the best, and like I was trying to point out, but it was kind of hard to while Elon and Trump were talking. Elon Musk, his security detail has to be as good, if not better, than the government service protection, which is the Secret Service, even though the Secret Service could be like a military.
Yeah.
And they don't really need to follow the same rules, but they should be held to the highest standard of standards. But their actions here lately with Butler, Pennsylvania, that was a complete clusterfuck. And as more and more body camera comes out, it's just more and more questions of, did y'all let him do it? And the police like, man, I told that MFer that he needs to put someone on this roof and all that. And you're like, I know we heard that, but now that you're seeing the body cam and actually listening to the audio, you're thinking, damn, all that's right. Like, what the hell's really going on? And with Director Cheadle not wanting to answer any phone or anything in the congressional hearing, and then the new guy like, yep, okay, you want someone to take the blame? I'll take the blame. It's our fault. We messed up. We're gonna do better. But like after 3 weeks, you haven't even interviewed everybody. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, and he was even asked, and I watched that hearing. He was even asked about that. Well, I mean, I guess now it is true, but at that time, the allegation that, they had a meeting prior to, and they were, it was suggested that they put somebody on there on that building. And he's like, no, we did not. And now you've got this body cam video that come out, and that officer saying, I told them at the meeting last Tuesday or Thursday, whichever it was, put somebody up there. They fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
This is on body cam. Well, that right there, he wouldn't have said that if there hadn't been no meeting. So, I'm like, they just keep getting nails driven in the coffin.
Well, I hope for the sake of the country that our government gets back, our leadership of the government, we figure it out. Somehow the country heals and comes together more than being divided exactly in half. Hopefully after the election, and then there is no election, hopefully that, there's some kind of healing on the land, because right now, if the way that it's progressed, I can only imagine what's going to happen in the next couple months.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, it's like
now an election.
you know, the guy up in kind of somewhat unrelated, the guy that stabbed the other guy up in New York, what was it, yesterday? And the whole time he's stabbing the victim, he's like, you know, free Palestine, free Palestine. Do you want to die? Do you want to die? While he's stabbing this guy. And you know, the way, you know, what's going on with Iran right now. I mean, we've got the USS, was it Georgia? It's got like 172 Tomahawks on it, and supposedly some Navy SEALs with mini submarines that's been asked to speed up to the Med. You know, the concern now is these sleeper cells that are in the United States. If this kicks off, you know, and you know, like him or not, Alex Jones was talking about this a while back, and he actually had somebody on there that knew what the hell they were talking about. But he's like, you know, every state has sleeper cells in it, and they're just waiting for it to kick off. So,
well, I mean, if you see the Hamas, just a small window into what we're talking about is when they were rioting on, what was it, Passover, the Jewish Passover, where they had 5 bridges simultaneously protesting. Like they had the BWI went down, and that was an accident, right? That had nothing to do with anything, right? But then a week later, you have San Francisco and Boston and New York and Miami and San Antonio, and you have all these places with organized protests across the country, full on shut the bridges down at the same exact time. And that was just peaceful protests to some degree, but it shows you how organized it is.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if you don't, I mean, is peaceful protests, but it's just like, I say the word, I make the call, and then areas all over the country, people assimilate to the words that I'm saying. That's the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
And it's right in America. It's like, that doesn't wake you up.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. You can't tell me that if you don't stop for just a second and think about what you just said.
Yeah.
I mean, damn. And you know, they're hearing this. I mean, they're hearing all this other stuff that's going on.
I mean, it's scary.
And they're not doing anything about it. I mean, I understand as peaceful protest, there's nothing you can do. But for it to be that, in that kind of sync where, you know, everybody's shutting a bridge down at a certain time, you know, from one time zone to another.
I mean, think about depopulation. If there's less people, there's less polluting, and, you know, Bill Gates or whatever, you know, they're talking about like, you know, shrinking down the population. So there's less people and more opportunity, and more people have jobs, and get rid of more people. I mean, it's just it's a weird thing. But I forget the point I was going to make, but it's weird how they're, you know, it's like Kamala Harris and this fucking idiot that's from Minnesota or whatever the hell. So you have these cities burning, defund the police, Seattle, Washington. You have the Minnesota. You have all these the blue areas that are like fucking war zones, you know, with people protesting, and let's not stop everyone. They have a good reason. As a matter of fact, I support them in the reason why they want to burn down the city and they want to defund the police. We support them 100%. Now you take these two people, or these two ideas out of California and out of these, you know, Seattle or Minnesota. Now you put them in charge of the whole entire country, where now you can have these protests where you're burning down, and the president of the United States and vice president and the administration saying, go ahead with your bad self. That's right. Make a statement, burn it down. That's right. I mean, take those statues down. When you have the president of the United States supporting that kind of behavior, it's going to increase the line that you don't cross. When you say, hey, I called you names and you called me names, the next time we get into an argument, we have to say something more hurtful or do something that draws more attention. It's going to be mass violence. You know, it's going to be mass violence. I think the country is going to be really taking a turn for the worse with the Kamala Harris and whatever that fucking idiot's name is, Waltz.
Yeah.
Waltz or some shit.
Yeah, Tim Waltz. And here's the other thing. Yeah.
I'm thinking Joe Walsh from the fucking, what was it? Joe Walsh from America's Most Wanted.
Oh, yeah. But here's the other thing. You know, if Trump does get in, which I hope he does, I mean, I'm afraid you're still going to see rioting.
Fake news.
Yeah, you're going to see rioting because there's going to be people who are going to be January 6th not happy with the election results, and they're going to think that now we have a dictator, and they need to pull a Venezuela where they all need to go on the streets and say we have a dictator and we're suppressed and we're oppressed, and the whole government's out to get us, and now Taylor Swift had to leave the country because she promised, and now there's no more Taylor Swift, and what am I going to do? And life ain't worth living. I mean, this is what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. And who was that senator the other week? He said that, if Trump is elected, they were going to do something. One of the amendments, I forget which one it was, the 6th Amendment or something like that, that it would keep Trump from taking office. But he openly said, if we do that, it will cause an all-out civil war.
Well, the thing about the Civil War is, if you do territorial, this area versus this area, it's one thing, but you can't put a bullseye on a state because there's different people with different views in that state. So I think you'll see more of a civil division more than a civil war, where it's like I was mentioning to you about, legalizing marijuana, even though it's illegal federally. There's states that are saying we think it's okay and it's legal here, where you'll see states say, Texas, we're not about what you guys are doing. We're going to stand on our own and keep these, now we're building a wall around the border of Texas because these other states feel a different way. And I think you'll see, instead of united states, I think you'll start to see divided states with these radical ideals.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, California,
no longer, accepting, transfer residents from California. If you have a California driver's license, you can't be in Texas. I mean, I think you'll see a civil division, and that'd be a worst case scenario though. But I think it'll be by the states, where the states will say, we've been voting this way, and I don't know how these people are in charge, but we're going to govern our state the way we want to, and we don't want nothing to do with this federal. I think that would be maybe play out long term.
Oh, no doubt. And,
yeah. It'd be tough though, because federal funding and taxes and roadways and there's just, I don't know. It's kind of far fetched to see how it would even happen, but I think that's what you could look at.
Yeah.
Oh, Tampon Tim, what's up, Rock and Roll Rebel? Today's my birthday, bro. My cousin, Dan, Thunder Dan from the Rock and Roll Rebel show.
What did I hear you say? 48, 47?
I know. The whole thing is, I thought I was fucking 48 all day. And I was on these videos like, yeah, 48. And then Laura, finally later in the day, she goes, you're 47. I don't mean to correct you because it looked like you're on a roll, but you're 47. So I'm 47. I stumbled upon that news today.
So she let you go all day say that?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's
yeah,
funny.
Making videos and shit. Yeah. She's like, you don't even know how old you are.
She's like, I just let him roll with it.
Yeah, it was. Yes. Yeah, pretty much. He's on a roll. Let him go.
That's funny.
Yeah, me and my cuz, we were both born in 77. He's 7/7/77, and I'm 8/12/77. And Tom Brady, I think, is 8/8 or 8/9/77. So me and Brady are about a week apart, and we're all about the same age there. Me and my cuz in South Carolina. What's up, cuz?
Oh, he's in South Carolina?
Yeah, he's in Myrtle Beach area.
Oh, I'm actually headed down there in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I got to I got to put some security cameras in for a friend of mine's aunt.
First of all, it's not security, it's security.
Excuse me.
Security cameras.
So I will be in Myrtle Beach. So he's in Myrtle Beach?
I don't know, somewhere around there. I think it's a short drive.
Oh, okay.
He's in one of those, where the rich white folk live. He's over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the rich white folk, they have little communities, pockets of, wealth and, the
Gated,
privilege. They have their
community.
white privilege cards they carry around with them and stuff.
Open the electric gate.
Dude, he's got dirty Myrtle. Yeah, he's no, he ain't in the hood. I seen pictures of his house. He's over there with the upper echelon of the Myrtle Beach area. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I actually reached out to them as well.
South Carolina, Myrtle Beach area. Yeah, for
South Carolina,
the schools.
I have found, and Jason told me this. I have found, it's a bunch of political red tape when you're talking about public schools. So I've just gone to I've gone for the jugular. I'm contacting the governor's office because essentially they're going to be the ones that say yay or nay. But
yeah, he's
he says, and we gave
the rebels like, yeah, the golf cart boys, dirty Myrtle. We gave it.
Here's my question: Is your golf cart squatted?
You can't squat. You might like when someone sits in your golf cart and takes it from you.
No, where they're doing it. So Myrtle Beach has a squat ban now. The Carolina squat. You know what I'm talking about? Don't tell me you haven't heard about the Carolina squat.
No.
Oh, Google it.
Oh, Rebel said no too. Let me see. What's it called?
Carolina squat. There's some other names, but I think that's the one that's stuck.
And this is what an image I'm looking for. Oh, is this like with the back tires down and the front tires up?
Yeah, that's about the stupidest thing I have ever seen.
This is like hydraulics, but you just have the front part up.
No, well, I don't know exactly how it works, but my understanding is, and somebody I know actually done it.
This right here, this kind of stuff.
They bought a lift kit, and they only had the front installed. They did not. They either left the back stock, or they put in a regular lowering kit on the back.
I don't know.
But they have, and North Carolina has too, and it hadn't been that big of an issue, but they've banned it. North Carolina has, but Myrtle Beach, they're actually towing down vehicles.
Really? They should. So I tell you what, speaking of Myrtle Beach, there is someone famous. He actually went to the similar high school as me, right down the street from me, is Danny McBride. He went to Stafford High School, but Kenny fucking Powers, Myrtle Beach, baby. Kenny Powers. Yeah, dude. Kenny Powers.
Oh, okay.
Danny McBride. He's Bound and Down. And then he's also in that show. What's the one? The Righteous Gemstones?
Oh, I don't know. His face is familiar. I know.
Yeah, he's in a lot of movies with Will Ferrell. His name is Danny McBride. Yeah, so he's in that one. He's also in. He was in a couple of movies, but this is him in Righteous Gemstones. I'll tell you, the dude is hilarious. But in Myrtle Beach, he did a whole entire show in Myrtle Beach where he's riding jet skis and stuff like that. He's a Major League Baseball player, former pitcher. Kenny motherfucking Powers, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's if you're sitting around. Hey, by the way, did you watch the Microdots?
I did. I finally got around to it. Yes.
Now that's another Turtle Boy bullshit. If you watch that, you're watching soap operas. That's not the real thing, or what? I mean, it looks pretty fucking real. Huh?
That was. I mean.
Oh, Tropic Thunder. Yeah.
I've actually subscribed to Microdots. Now.
What'd you think of the video?
I mean, it was good. I mean, it kind of gets, and I'm not knocking on Turtle Boy, but kind of gets the same thing across, but a little bit more believable, if that makes sense.
The skill and effort in which that guy puts those freaking videos together, reenactments with the dramatization of what happened, and when he was talking about the phone in the back seat, and he's showing this person's here, and McCabe is sitting in the front seat with the windshield wipers going, and then he's like, and then she didn't know that the phone would be recording. What a happened turn of events. And then it records her calling her sister, and it's only for 8 seconds, and you say, their help is on the way. And then it shows, if you were inside the house and the phone rang and it's 4:00 in the morning and you wake up, help is on the way. Help for who? Help where? Obviously, the person inside knew what was going on, and they're playing this tape, and they're connecting all these dots, and how the that Judge Bev, how she's connected with someone based on here, and she and someone else went to school with this person, and that's how they're connected. And the chief, the mayor, the lieutenant governor, or whatever, and how they're connected. I mean, he's been drawing all the dots with that reenactment video. Unbelievable.
Well, did I send you the
best content on Karen Reed for sure?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, that was good. Did you see where I'm trying to bring it up now? The I'm gonna call it an agency in Massachusetts that is in charge of all of law enforcement officer certifications in the state of Massachusetts. How they are now under investigation for the way that they're handling certain cases where law enforcement officer certifications should be pulled, but have not.
No.
Yeah, there's a big deal with that. I thought I sent you the link,
dude.
In Massachusetts,
brother John, we don't need you to be in one of those NWA fuck the police. We don't need you to be taking that stance. That's my job. Your job is to be former law enforcement.
To help you out a little bit. I mean, I saw.
Where's Joe when you need him?
Well, I know I sent it to him, and of course he had some kind of rebuttal. But,
of course. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, because they like officers with, and this goes back to what I was telling you during the Karen Reed trial, their public record dump. I mean, there were people that were investigated for, misconduct, abuse of power, and I mean, just a whole barrage of DUI. It was actually brought up in this news investigation where some of the Massachusetts state police officers had been stopped and arrested or cited or whatever for driving under the influence, and their certification should have been ripped, and there wasn't.
Yeah, they had Tully's under investigation right now. Bukaki or Buchanan, he's under investigation. That other guy's under the other guy who was receiving those messages, he's under investigation. The other lieutenant was on investigation. They did let him go, but that whole Karen Reed case, you think it's over. They're trying to regurgitate it, bring it back. Right now they're in the jury members. There's like 4 or 5 jury members that came forth and said we were not guilty on counts 1 and 3, the manslaughter, the second degree murder, the 1 and 3, we were unanimous not guilty. We were just hung on the second one. But they let them all go. So now they're going to try her again for the murder charge. So it's like double jeopardy. And I like how they pointed out in court. It said, you're making this lady have to convince 24 jurers that she's innocent because she's already convinced 12. Now you're making her do it again under double jeopardy. We have to get these jury members in there and ask them if this is what was said. So that's where it is right now. But I think Judge Bev is like, no, she's pretty much shooting it down, and they didn't want to go back to trial in January. But TMZ is all over it. I mean, the news is all over it. I mean, the press, the amount of people who are covering it now, there's way more new people who haven't seen none of the trial, but they're digging back through all of it again. So when this trial comes back on, you'll have the inside skinny of actually watching the first one.
Yeah. So here, one of the news articles,
and Rebel says 13% of police crooked.
I believe that. So the Municipal Police Training Committee, that was it, in Massachusetts, 46 police instructors have been disciplined at various local police departments for serious sustained complaints. And I'm skimming through, but received significant disciplinary sanction resulting in suspension for more than 5 days without pay or reduction in rank, suspension for excessive use, civil right violation, domestic violence, DWI, all kinds of stuff. And where their certification should have been removed, but was not. So this agency, see, like North Carolina, is held by the North Carolina Sheriff Standards, like they hold our certifications. So apparently in Massachusetts, this Municipal Police Training Committee, they did not jerk these officer certifications. and it's multiple police agencies, but a lot of them were with Massachusetts State Police.
Well, I tell you what, this is a good stopping point at 10:44, the last hour and a half of my birthday. I do need to put a period in this one, put a plug in, and I do thank all the 386 people watching.
Yeah.
The 3 hearts and 1 check mark.
Kingdom Radio Texas on X, 385.
Yeah, I know there's one person watching somewhere else, but 385 people watching on X. I appreciate it.
YouTube, and that was me.
Yeah, well, Rebel was on YouTube right now watching.
Oh, okay.
That's the one I did. Fucking one person. But yeah, we appreciate everybody watching, especially X. And it's gonna be a busy week. And tune in Thursday as John tells this intimate story about personal experience with law enforcement on the other side of the badge, murder investigation, and it's going to be a good one. You heard that one earlier. So that's on Thursday. So definitely watch with a sympathetic ear, listen closely, and maybe somebody knows something or has a suggestion. Like my boy Rock and Roll Rebel says, happy birthday. Absolutely. We're doing it big time. We're going to be going to Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville at the end of the week. And the Rock and Roll Rebel show said they're going to be watching Thursday.
Cool. Yeah. It'll be on. He's only going to do it on X. So find Joe Lanou on X.
Yeah, love John C. Love Johnny Cochran, our resident, legal mastermind.
If it does not fit, you must have quit.
That's right. If my foot does not fit in your ass, then I'm just going to kick it. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, happy birthday. Hello to the boss lady.
I will, man. I appreciate you. And remember to get busy. It's a birthday. You hear me?
Yeah.
All right, buddy,
be safe.
We can now project the winner of the presidential race. Donald Trump wins the presidency.
What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
We have a president who actually fulfilled the promises he made during the campaign. Securing the border to foreign policy.
He now has a record as president that's pretty damn impressive.
Breaking news out of Palm Beach,
The FBI has executed an unprecedented search warrant at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The former president has both sides of the political aisle up in arms.
It is a dangerous and unstable moment in American history.
The Justice Department has just indicted former President Donald Trump.
For 7 years, they hated him, they targeted him, they hunted him.
This is the epitome of the abuse of the prosecutorial power to preempt political decisions.
I never thought anything like this could happen in America. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving. On November 5th, 2024, justice will be done. We will take back our country, and we will make America great again. America will always rise to every challenge and overcome every danger.
Donald Trump seems to always get stronger when challenged. These types of things, I think, give him strength.
When I'm reelected, I will totally obliterate the deep state.
As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail.